for these different treatments. And then we also have, amongst the different faculty here in rehab science, we have a number of independently running laboratories with some pretty impressive equipment that for certain collaborative efforts might be able to be made available. If we take a look at some general areas of expertise that exist within this team, we have musculoskeletal and orthopedic rehab, which I think many would probably see as being consistent with physical therapist practice. We have experts in pain science. We have several faculty who are involved in either neurologic or vestibular rehabilitation or vestibular and neurologic general functioning. We have individuals with significant experience with rehab following oncologic conditions, individuals in pediatrics. We have several of our occupational therapists that are deeply involved in cognitive rehab, as well as mental health considerations, things like motivation and belonging, and also a little bit related to that is lifestyle redesign, and then multiple individuals who specialize in providing services in the home or how to optimize home environments for either the participation in intervention strategies or to just enable them to continue to live within the community in community settings. I mentioned labs and physical spaces. This is just a list of the currently running labs and centers that exist within our department. So we have a really impressive gait analysis lab run by Dr. Sue Insisto. Dr. Hangjin Zhou oversees the motor control and rehabilitation lab. Dr. Christian Quadra is doing some really interesting things in his neuromodulation and neurocontrol of movement lab. Dr. Ghazala Salim oversees the brain function and recovery lab. And Dr. Personius is going to talk about some of his work and collaborations within his neuromuscular physiology lab. And Dr. Muthaya oversees the brain plasticity and neurorehab lab. And then sort of contained within rehab science is the Center for Assistive Technology. And this is a separate standing center that has an incredible amount of tools and insights into technology to help individuals live in their physical environments. So some key themes here. Our focus is on motor control and movement analysis and neural responses to different conditions and pathologies, and certainly the focus on assistive technology shows up in multiple places. So there's really a wide variety of tools available within these physical spaces. Related to some of these labs, some of the equipment that can be made that is available to our researchers, we have folks who are working with non-invasive brain stimulation, so TDCS and TMS, and they have some really exciting new equipment they've acquired with this BrainSight device that helps for increasing the ability to target how some of these interventions are being delivered. We've got a very impressive Vertex CDP machine that also includes some immersive virtual reality technology. Dr. Sisto's lab has the 10-camera Vicon 3D motion capture system with force plates, and they were just able to require a really great body weight support system, which allows the complete assessment of individuals with mobility deficits where views of their mobility are not obstructed by somebody having to walk next to them while they walk or move. We've got a split belt treadmill. We have a whole host of technology for vestibular testing and assessment. Dr. Quadra's lab has several different tools and techniques for stimulating muscles, nerves, and the vestibular system, as well as some very sophisticated surface EMG technology that functions in a high density manner for motor unit assessment. He also has several different types of force sensors for measuring the function at different joints in the fingers. And I won't jump into it now. This is really, there's a couple of us who are still doing significant animal work, Kirk being one of them, and his lab has a lot of really interesting tools available. And here we just see some examples of some of this equipment. So we thought one thing that could be useful would be sharing some examples of collaborations that exist between faculty in our department and departments and individuals external to our department. Now, there's a lot of words here, and I'm going to summarize some of this sort of briefly, and I will not do justice to the importance or the intricacies of some of this work, but in Dr. Hangjin Zhou's work, she is collaborating with individuals from computer science and industrial engineering in the UB Idea Center. They have developed tools that can be used for home-based rehab following stroke, and particularly for the upper extremity. And they have some equipment that can be used in the home, and they have, through a smartphone, the ability to capture the performance of some of these activities and several parameters related to the quality of the movements and things like that. So her role has been related to patient recruitment, overseeing this home intervention, and also being involved in the evaluation pre and post. She's also engaged, I should add that that project, being able to do that along with her collaborators, has been funded by NIDLR. Related to spinal cord injury, another focus area of hers, she's engaged in work that is looking at the prediction of recovery patterns using artificial intelligence. So she's working with Dr. Stevanovic from biomedical engineering, and they're in the process of creating these machine learning models that can predict long-term recovery outcomes based on either neurophysiologic or functional assessments in patients with spinal cord injury. So she's been instrumental in the implementation element of that related to the measures to use and how to collect that data, and also using some of the equipment from her lab for assessing brain and nerve function and using these EMG systems. Dr. Personius is doing some really interesting stuff. I'm going to ask him to share what some of that is.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Yeah, so just to kind of feed off of what Jake has been saying is, right, our overall goal here is to help push forward research into new areas and new possibilities for your lab. So I have some examples. My work is much more bench based. I'm animal based. But Beth Wolford, who is over in microbiology, she had submitted one time for an R01, had a good score, and she was looking at toxoplasma and a totally different area from mine, which is in the neuromuscular system. But what she realized was she needed someone that was a muscle physiologist. So when she contacted me, we were able to kind of strengthen that project, and the next time around, it was able to be funded. And so that was just, again, it informally, her just looking around and finding me. The same thing sort of happened with Dr. Adriatis, who's the next researcher that I've been closely collaborating with. He is a SUNY distinguished professor, and one of his PhD students found me just, looking through the webs and looking at different talks. And his work was all mainly cellular based and all dish based. And his desire was to try to move that work into animal based and then also to start looking at function and those sorts of things. And so from those collaborations, we've been able to kind of push his work in a different direction, and our two areas of expertise just dovetailed really nicely together, and we've been able to have two papers in Nature Communication, and we're hoping to submit a third. We have had multiple grants that we have written together. So far, none of them have worked out. We're still waiting to hear back with the shutdown on two of them. these two that were submitted in June. But it's just an example of what we're hoping to do with this RehabCORE is if you have interests in areas that you think, gosh, if I had someone that had some rehabilitation expertise, or if I had someone that had some expertise in exercise, or expertise in moving this into the home, we're a formal place now for you to contact us, and that's really our goal here. Jake?
Thank you. So to continue with just some examples of these collaborations, members of our department have worked really closely on mild TBI and concussion-related work, particularly with the lab that was started with Dr. Letty and Dr. Willer, and now overseen by Dr. Letty. My colleagues from occupational therapy, Chris Stavisky and Ghazala Salim, are both regular collaborators along with myself with this team. Chris and I are participants, are funded individuals with a large DoD trial looking at translating some of the work that Dr. Letty's team has been able to use in adolescent athletes and taking that to military populations. And in addition to translating the exercise element, Dr. Stavisky has brought his experience with both cognition and also motivation and other psychosocial considerations to look more holistically at this population. And my background in vestibular rehab and balance assessments has been leaned on here to help spec out what both the assessment elements of this are going to look at, and then some of those future translational considerations. We've also been able to take the work that was applied to the athletic populations, and we created a project that was funded internally here by our CTSI to see if we can help individuals who sustain concussions at work in the workplace and create more active interventions for them related to aerobic exercise to see if we can help get them back to work faster. So Dr. Letty is still an active part of this, along with other members of his team. And this was really fairly revolutionary in this concussion management realm, particularly for these individuals who are embroiled within the workers' compensation system and having access to early active treatment like this. We finished our pilot trial. We are writing up the results and plan to pursue, as a collective group, again, larger scale funding. And then a few years ago, we took some of the work that Dr. Letty was doing in his clinic with how he was evaluating individuals in person, and due to the pandemic, decided that there was a widespread need for the management of individuals with concussion via remote means. And at that time, there were no published protocols or recommended approaches for how to evaluate patients with concussion via telehealth or remotely. So Dr. Salim and I led the work alongside with John in translating what was being done in an in-person office visit into a safe and feasible way of collecting similar data remotely. And we published that in 2022. And then through an external collaboration with NYU, their neurology team actually adopted that, and they went through and actually validated, established the reliability and validity for that exam instrument. So that was born here out of UB. Dr. Sue-Ann Sisto is another widespread collaborator. She has several projects going on, but I decided to just choose 3 of them. She is working, she and our colleague, Dr. Jill Mayer, are collaborating with neurosurgery on assessing the impact of vagus nerve stimulation with rehab on gait following stroke, and this is part of an industry-funded trial. She's also working with Dr. Zhu from computer science on the impact of stroke on gait, using both her Vicon motion capture system, the force plates, and the new unweighting system that she has access to. And she's also involved in this project that is seeking to identify brain activation patterns in response to upper extremity movement pretty comprehensively using MRI, EEG, and transcranial magnetic stimulation to help better understand the current normal state of these movements and apply them to pathologic situations following either stroke or TBI. And this is another example of collaboration between rehab science and biomedical engineering. I think the last explicit example I'll share is work that Jan Tona and actually Suan Sisto, who's here, and I have been involved with the Long COVID Recovery Center, which was a funded project through the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation. Dr. Tona and myself, as well as Dr. Jennifer Abeleys and Sanjay Sethi from medicine, Dr. Laura Lewis from social work, and Dean Makowski-Wendy from epidemiology, all collaboratively working on this project to do multiple things. So there's more of the research arm related to the registry and data collection on huge numbers of patients who've been, or members of our community who have been affected by long COVID, but then also the types of evaluations and treatments provided in the actual recovery center where direct patient services were provided. So a big opportunity for all of us to be involved in the assessment and intervention development, working as a team to actively manage cases as patients were being seen as part of a multidisciplinary panel, and then also being active out in the community and educating individuals from various corners of our Western New York community about what long COVID is and what resources are out there for its management. And now we're taking the step into creating tools for more widespread training for medical providers and rehab providers to help with their own treatment of patients who are still dealing with long COVID. Those are some more detailed examples, but we have individuals who are collaborating all over the place. So Mike Brown in our faculty, I think I saw Dr. Keller on this call. He's doing some work with acute back pain management in emergency settings. Dr. Joe is also working with colleagues in neurology. Ghazala Salim has been integrated into multiple VA projects. Dr. Muthaya also collaborates with neurology and with mathematics. And Dr. Tona has had projects bringing occupational therapy considerations to dental medicine, which have been really very interesting. So if any of that sounds interesting at all, this is sort of how you can connect with us. I will say we are building this airplane while we're flying it. So some of these are in transition. Whoop, I didn't mean to do that. So what I'd like to do is attempt to change what I'm sharing. We'll see if I can do that smoothly. So you can see our web page. Take me one moment here.
And as Jake is doing that, what we're hoping is that this would be the place that you would go to if you're looking to get access to contacting us and setting up a potential collaboration.
Thank you. So yes, that link there that you see and that QR code will take you to this web page. And immediately what you see on the right side is this submit a collaboration request, which will take you to a form stack. And there you would provide some fairly high level details. It doesn't have to be overly specific about the project you're interested or the topic area that you're looking for support within. And then that would get funneled to Kirk and I, who can then try to link with individuals on our team here. And in addition to a lot of this, I've sort of verbally gone through here. But if you scroll down far enough, you can start to get a sense of who our faculty are and what some of their interests and areas of expertise may be. So if you look through here and you think, oh, that's exactly what I need, maybe I'll see if I can engage with this person, or when you complete the form stack, you can indicate if there's somebody who you think you might want to have a conversation with, and we can help to facilitate that, or maybe include others based on our knowledge of their work. But you can see there's a pretty deep list here, and actually this is in the process of being updated. I was hoping it would be done for this, but there's additional collaborations that will be listed out here just to provide examples, and a few more categories, and actually a couple of our other faculty members will be added to this list.
Dr. McPherson, just a heads up that you got a shout out from your dean in the chat.
Oh boy. I, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were here, Gene. Now I'll start sweating. But thank you for that. I didn't see the chat. All right, let me see if I can get back here.
And some cheers from Kyle Kelleran, but I don't think it's the same as from your name. So
Still nice though. Thanks, Kyle.
thanks, Kyle.
Yeah. I see in the chat there we've got some questions, so I think
Okay.
we're at that point now where you have certainly have the idea of what we're trying to do here. So yeah, go ahead and ask questions, please.
Yeah. Let me wrap this up. That way I can stop sharing and we can look at faces besides just mine and Kirk's. So in
I'm
general,
happy.
oh, so in general, the process for engaging with us, you have this research idea that you're really excited about, and then you realize, wait a minute, this project is going to involve rehab. Whatever could I do? And you complete a RehabCORE consultation request, and then here we are. We're able to meet and have a conversation about where that goes. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and then have a conversation.
I think that we have a nice sized group so that if people want to turn on their camera or their microphone and pose their question, I think that would work.
So I have a question. Shall I go ahead? Oh,
Yes, please.
so first I'd like to just introduce myself briefly. I'm Shamshad Ali, the Associate Director for the Biostatistics Center for Collaborative Research and Data Coordination. And that name sounds a little bit complicated, but it was necessary to integrate biostatistics and data coordination as an overall overarching effort in any research engagement. I love your initiatives and I love what you put in together, Mike, but what I'd like to understand is where does the biostatistician fit into all of this effort? Does it only start when you want to design the statistical design of the study? Does it start at the beginning from concept to data flows? Because I believe, coming from an industry background and an academic background and also government background, that data flow plays a critical role, whether it's data flow from the laboratory, the patient level, or even, as you mentioned in that very first slide, how we collect the data determines the success of any any research whatsoever, right? And so I'd just like to, do you have a in-house biostatistician? I'm not promoting myself, I don't have the time, but I'm just saying that it's something that's necessary,
I would agree with you that it's necessary, and in my experience, I'm happy to hear from others as well. The sooner you bring individuals with that background to the table, and I'm not a biostatistician, and your center only sounds half as complex as I think biostatistics is as a whole. So I think we've relied on the Bird Corps and members of our biostats department for projects. But I think the sooner you bring them to the table and talk about what you're looking to do, there's an element of feasibility that I think our colleagues in biostats can inform us of, based on what we're looking at. If we have this really grandiose idea for a project in our head, and they tell us, well, in order to answer that question, it's going to take you 800 subjects, and I have $1,000 in funding. Immediately, okay, I need to be more thoughtful in how we go about addressing this question. And I see the role of our rehab science professionals being sort of similar in not helping to understand the analysis techniques that will be used or completing the power analyses or some of those early steps, excuse me for that. But being able to determine, are you collecting the correct outcomes based on what you're envisioning, the story that you want to tell at the end, are your outcomes in a position where you're going to be able to capture that? Or you say you're going to work on building strength within this population, but the protocol that we've discussed, it seems like the intensity might not be enough, or for the population you're interested in, maybe it's too much, or maybe there are more contemporary ways of addressing a certain impairment that might be possessed by a patient population. So we do not have a biostatistician who's a part of this. I see this as being collaborative with the RehabCORE or with our colleagues in biostatistics. And an example of that, we work frequently with Jeff Menzikowski in our TBI work, and he is there. I often ask him, I say, Jeff, I need some adult supervision on this. Are we in the right path? Are we going the right direction? And he can use his expertise to gently redirect when necessary.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And yeah, I know Jeff very well, and also know Greg Weiland and a bunch of others that you may be exposed to. One thing I'd like to say, and you touched on it, it's really about communication, and the take-home message, I think, for everyone within this group and all in research engagements is that we got to take time to educate the biostatistician on what you want to do, what you're doing. And that's important because resource management is important, being the number of patients you can manage, right? And if this statistician is not engaged upfront to understand the science, by no means I'm going to be the doctor or physiotherapist or the clinician, but I still need to understand why you do what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. And if those W's, all those W's of research, if we could understand that up front, maybe the resources don't have to be 800 patients. Maybe it can be 300 patients, as the case may. Or maybe the endpoint that's connected, the outcomes that's being connected to the endpoint need to be redefined so that you can have better power or something like that. But none of that makes sense if I don't understand your language or you don't understand my language at some level, Thank you. Thank you.
That clarity in study design and envisioned outcome and next steps and the translational piece, I think the more you have that conversation on the front end, the smoother the rest of the process is likely to be.
Yep.
Yeah, briefly, I see this as an example of the two things running in parallel, right? Is that what we're seeing is that we can help you with study design and with outcome measurements and those sorts of things in a different way from stats, but that they should both strengthen the quality of the research or strengthen the quality of the application. Other questions? It's lunchtime.
Not so much a question, but a comment. I would like to invite people to come over to see some of our labs because I think in a large way, that is how I've developed collaborations is through people coming to see the lab and, oh, wow, you can measure this. Well, this would make sense in my grant and et cetera, et cetera. So that I just would invite any members listening in here to come and visit us in Kimball Tower.
I guess I have one question. If we have existing partnerships, but new projects coming down the line, would you like us to submit them through here for tracking or additional resource purposes? Or would you like us to just kind of continue our partnerships as they are?
Actually, that's a great question, and I can step in on that one. That would be very helpful for us because we are obviously this is a new idea, and any time that we can have data showing that we're actually being useful is beneficial. But I mean, the other end of it too is that if you have existing interactions you're working with Mike Brown, you know, to obviously we're in touch with Dr. Brown, so we'll know, but yeah, that would be helpful for us to show that the idea has value and worth. That'd be great.
Also,
Dr.
I'd love to come
McPherson?
take some visits to the labs.
Kyle, you're everywhere. Oh, and Dr. Sisto said yes to cookies. So there is another question in the chat, and it's posed by the dean saying, can you discuss ideas on how the center's expertise and interventions in aging cohorts might be leveraged? Frailty is a big issue in aging.
Yeah, what comes to mind immediately in hearing that is fall prevention. And we have many individuals in our department, some who focus specifically on geriatric management and how to adapt exercise interventions to more frail populations, with both some of the sort of person expertise as well as the equipment that we have here. We can very accurately and quantitatively measure balance function in individuals to either have that baseline data or to have as part of the envisioned outcome for a given project. From an interventional perspective, again, the expertise in the educational element of fall risk, fall prevention, and then also the more physical interventional piece of what body systems should be assessed and should impairments be ameliorated in these more frail individuals to prevent these long-term issues.
Even environment too, right, Jake?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
home environment and those sorts of things too are extremely important in reducing frail risk, and to be able to kind of co-adapt that along with the person as they become more frail.
I think assistive technology plays a role there as well, for both home and in the community. So there's a lot of options for addressing an issue like that.
We also have a new faculty member who is interested in driving in aging, Mike Camarada. So very much focused prior to arriving here on driving and aging. So that might be another potential collaborator.
Dr. McPherson, I don't see any other questions in the chat unless somebody wants to chime in. We can see if they do, but I just want to say thank you again for the presentation. I would like to say to all of the attendees that I have had the privilege of working with a number of people across the School of Public Health and Health Professions, and they couldn't be more collaborative and generous colleagues than I have ever witnessed. And so I think everything that you're doing to try and build bridges across disciplines is recognized and appreciated. So glad that we've gotten to hear about your talents. And I would also say that from the perspective of where I sit, if we can help, if you want to coordinate an open house day and I blast out across the health sciences and across the campus, if that's easier, if you want people to contact you for just, visits here or there, whatever is easier, but our office is here to help you and support you in any way that you need.